The official CDCP exam is just 1 hour long, with 40 multiple-choice questions, closed book, and a passing score of 27 out of 40. On paper, that sounds very manageable, but here is where many candidates get surprised. CDCP is not difficult because it is tricky. It is difficult because it is broad. You are expected to think across power, cooling, cabling, fire protection, physical security, monitoring, and operations, and to understand how all of those pieces work together inside a mission-critical environment. So if you are preparing for the Certified Data Center Professional exam and you want a realistic, practical study guide, this video is for you. And I'm going to walk you through how I recommend approaching CDCP if your goal is not just to scrape through the exam, but to actually understand the language of data centers. And that matters because this certification is valuable for facilities teams, IT professionals, project engineers, AV and ELV specialists, security professionals, and anyone who works in or around critical infrastructure. In the real world, a data center is never just about servers. It is about availability, resilience, safety, maintainability, and risk reduction. When organizations talk about uptime, service continuity, and business resilience, this is the environment they are talking about. And when you hear discussions around Tier 1 at 99.671%, Tier 2 at 99.741%, Tier 3 at 99.982%, and Tier 4 at 99.995% availability, you quickly realize that small design or operational mistakes can have a very big business impact. And the first tip is this: understand what CDCP is really testing. CDCP is not a memorization exam in the narrow sense. Yes, you need facts, but more importantly, you need structured understanding. Officially, the certification is designed to test your understanding of the key components of data centers and how to improve operations and maintenance for high availability. That means, when you study, do not treat each chapter like an isolated topic. Build mental connections. When you study cooling, connect it to rack layout, raised floor strategy, containment, power density, and monitoring. When you study fire protection, connect it to safety procedures, signage, detection, suppression, and regulatory thinking. When you study physical security, connect it to access control, CCTV, human procedures, and operational discipline. Candidates who study in silos often feel lost in the exam because the questions are designed around practical understanding. The second tip is to study according to the exam weight, not according to what you personally find interesting. Based on the official exam preparation guide, about 85% of the exam is focused on facilities of the data center, and about 15% is focused on operations. That alone should shape your study plan. The heavy areas include the mission-critical site, standards, site location and building considerations, raised flooring and suspended ceiling, lighting, power infrastructure, electromagnetic fields, equipment racks, cooling, water supply, scalable network infrastructure, fire protection, physical security and safety, and auxiliary systems like EMS, BMS, and DCIM. Then there is the operational section, which covers things like service level management, training programs, maintenance agreements, documentation, monitoring activities, and vendor management. So if your study plan is spending too much time on only one favorite area, like cabling or UPS, you are not aligning with how the exam is built. The third tip is to master the power and cooling sections especially well, because these are core to the certification and they also help you answer other questions. In my experience, power and cooling are where candidates either gain confidence or lose it. For power, make sure you can clearly explain the full distribution path from utility or generation all the way to the rack. Understand transformers, generators, ATS, STS, UPS systems, batteries, redundancy strategies, grounding and bonding, PDU form factors, and basic power quality concepts. You do not need to be a design consultant to pass CDCP, but you do need enough clarity to recognize what belongs where, why redundancy matters, and how failures can propagate. For cooling, focus on principles rather than only product types. Understand temperature and humidity basics. Raised floor versus non-raised floor cooling approaches, supplemental cooling, containment, and the impact of airflow management. Also understand why modern data centers are evolving toward higher density environments and how that affects both cooling strategy and operating risk. If you can explain why hotspots happen, why poor airflow segregation is dangerous, and why cooling design cannot be separated from rack layout and power density, you are thinking at the right level for CDCP. The fourth tip is to take standards seriously, but don't get overwhelmed. Try